Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Devils in God's Country. I'm your resident heretic, Casper Rigsby, and today we're going to talk about Christian nationalism in the U.S. government. We're going to have a few offshoots from that to discuss, but overall that's going to be the main point, the main topic for the day. So, to begin on the subject, I want to start by talking about Mike Johnson, the new Speaker of the House. Mike is a wonderful example of the sort of hidden in plain sight Christian nationalist / white supremacist. And I give that slash to that because with any sort of Christian nationalism, there's almost always some level of white supremacy. The two go hand in hand. They're very closely related, and they have a strong kinship that goes back throughout the ages. So, Mike is a perfect example of those sort of just hidden in plain sight Christian nationalists that are not just in our federal government, but are throughout all of state governments, throughout most states. In fact, it's actually a pretty rampant thing, especially in areas like school boards and very local politics. You'll see these sort of easy to overlook Christian nationalists, white supremacists, and their presence there has grown over time. They've been at the job of infiltrating the government for decades, and they've been doing a pretty decent job of getting their folks in there. The thing that makes it so easy to get their people in there is because they put up people like Mike Johnson. He looks like a goddamn insurance salesman. You know what I mean? There's nothing threatening or intimidating about Mike. He said if it hadn't been for him becoming Speaker of the House, nobody would know his name. Maybe some of his constituents, but even then, I don't know about his campaign or anything, but I would imagine he's probably ran unopposed for the position he's in, and for those who don't show up for his stump speeches and other areas where he's actually giving opinions on his viewpoints of politics and other aspects of U.S. culture, he's easy to overlook. You know what I mean? And the same goes for the rest of these Christian nationalists that are uh, flourishing in the local political arenas around the country. The people like Mike are not out here waving Confederate flags um, and fucking calling for a national divorce. But what they are doing is listening to those people. When you look at Mike at his events and rallies, and then you'll start to actually see what he's really all about. And it's not as benign as well. If you want to know me, just read your Bible, because that's where I get all my ideas from. It's not that benign. Um, when you start to listen to him at his events and rallies, you start to see that Mike is actually really very much anti-democratic. Um, he and I mean small d democratic, not, you know, obviously he's a Republican, so not a fan of the Democratic Party, but small d Democrat. He is not a fan of the people having their will, um, you know, be put forward and expressed through our laws and or you know um, having the people's voices be heard. That's not what Mike's about. That's not what any Christian nationalist is about. Certainly not what any white supremacist is about. Um, Especially as white people begin to decline as far as being the majority in this country, and that in and of itself is the biggest factor for why people like Mike Johnson are popular um, amongst uneducated white dudes, especially um, like white guys that are do not have any sort of college education or at least secondary education beyond high school. Um, they tend to flock towards guys like Mike because Mike's telling them that they're going extinct, um, and they don't like that. Of course, nobody would, but then again, it's not actually true. So it's it's easy to latch onto for people like that, but the reality is it's all just sort of leveling out for the most part. Um, more intelligent, um, well educated people aren't necessarily having kids, and when we do, it's not, you know, I'm not out here like the Duggars having 12 of them, 14. You know, that's ridiculous, honestly. Um, so yeah, the numbers are a lot smaller there. Um, the white population isn't exactly growing as fast as other populations are. Um, but of course, that's not a reason to panic about anything. And democracy is still the best option for any sort of government. Um, I mean, personally, I'm an advocate for democratic socialism, but you know, I don't know that we'll ever get to that point in this country. People are just scared to death of the socialism word, but you know, it is what it is. Democracy, however, you know, we can stand together on that point. I think, for the most part, um, majority rule is the better um, option, as long as there are safeguards so that the minority is not, uh, you know, put out or distinguished in some way that makes them inferior. Um, I am an advocate for equality for all people, um, across the board, no matter what, without any exceptions or wiggle rooms or anything. Um, However, people like Mike are not. They're not for that at all. They're not for free expression. Um, they're certainly not for uh, accepting people uh, in terms of their sexuality and their gender. Um, Things like that are a big hell no on Mike's fucking radar. And to be real, he would like to do away with those people altogether. Just get rid of them. Um, his ideas about homosexuality and non-straight people, non-cisgendered people, are just honestly archaic. Uh, and when you talk about, um, or when he talks about how he gets his ideas from the Bible, well, that one you can definitely say, yeah, he's there, getting his ideas from the Bible. Because if he had his way, he would stone gay people to death, as the Bible says you must. So that's where he's at from a social standpoint, and that's really bad for this nation, um, because he's going to try to push all sorts of anti-gay, um, anti-equality bills uh, onto the House floor, and of course they're never going to go anywhere. And not with the Senate being controlled by Democrats, not with a Democratic president sitting in the Oval Office, but they'll be presented, um, and that's part of how these people get to where they're at. Um, they keep presenting these ideas over and over and over again. These ideas that honestly are anti-democratic, they're anti-equality, they're bad for the nation, but they keep pushing these ideas constantly and throwing them out there. And what they're doing is softening people to those ideas, because the more that you hear them in the mainstream, the more that you see them every day being pushed and being talked about, the more it desensitizes you to it and normalizes it for you. And of course, that's the game plan. They're here to wear you down to where you don't actually you don't actually see how wrong what they're talking about is, because they've managed to normalize it so much. It just seems like, option A, option B. They're just, two options in a normal A B scenario, and they're not. They're not equal options at all. So we see the normalization of these ideas leads to the normalization of people like MTG and Lauren Boebert and Paul Gosart, um, and people looking at them as if they should have the same level of respect and weight given to their words as other congressmen, senators, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't be there to begin with. Number one, shouldn't be there, because we shouldn't have white supremacists or Christian nationalists in our government. They don't actually have a place there. They represent 20%, maybe 20% of the population of the United States. So they don't belong there. They certainly don't belong in the positions of power that they have, where they have the ability to actually do serious detrimental harm to the people that they dislike. Now, even though the House is dysfunctional, because the Republican Party is fucking dysfunctional, that doesn't stop the hearings that that people like MTG go in and try to harass and harangue people in. It doesn't stop the hateful rhetoric. It doesn't stop the continual grifting of ignorant people. And those things need to stop. The same way that being able to have pro-Israeli lobbyists come in and throw hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars at both Republicans and Democrats to have them ostensibly have speaking heads for the Israeli state sitting in our government. That shouldn't happen either. People with money like Leonard Leo and the ones buying Supreme Court justices, that again should not happen. Of course, above all those things, there shouldn't be white supremacists or Christian nationalists in our government. In the same way that there shouldn't be outright swastika flag waving Nazis in our government. And we can say that, well, we don't have those people there, but holy hell is Paul Gosart damn close. You know what I mean? Like that. There are people that are on that same fringe, that under the right circumstances, I'm sure they would fly that flag. Either way, none of them belong in our government. The stopgap measurement to keep them out of our government would be single vote elections. So all this districting and bullshit, no. Whoever gets the most votes wins. That would put an end to a lot of it, because I don't think the Republican Party lasts through 2 elections where it comes down to just popular vote. Quite honestly, I don't think they last at all, because the majority of the people in this country don't want what they're selling. They certainly don't want what Mike Johnson's selling. This brand of this brand of America that is cloaked in Jesus and fucking this weird evangelical fucking governing body. I mean, most Americans do not want to live in Gilead, you know, but that is what Mike Johnson and other Christian nationalists would have us live in. That's where they would have us be. And that's not where most people are. That's not what most people want. So, you know, you take it down to popular vote, and it it becomes very clear that um, those are not the things that people want. The the votes on abortion bills, for pro freedom votes, because honestly, around the issue of abortion. Um, it's not actually the issue of abortion that people are voting on, and I see how the Republicans don't get that. They don't understand that at all. It's the issue of abortion isn't just about can a woman have an abortion. It's about freedom. Flat out, plain and simple, it's about freedom. The freedom to choose what happens with my own body. And that freedom is important. People want that freedom. So, in the same way that Republicans could see that people didn't necessarily want vaccine mandates when COVID was overwhelming the whole planet, they saw that then and they jumped on that bandwagon. That people didn't want to be told what we have to do as far as take a shot or what goes into our bodies. But they just don't seem to click and understand that that's the same issue surrounding abortion. It's the same thing. People do not want the government telling them what the fuck they can or cannot do with their bodies when it comes to their own medical decisions. People don't want the government telling them what they can or can't do in their own fucking bedrooms. People don't believe that the government should have any say-so in what happens between two consenting adults in the privacy of their own whatever location they're in at the time, whether it be a hotel room or a bedroom or their own home, wherever. We, the United States citizens, do not want the government in our bedrooms. We do not want them by our bedsides in the hospital. We don't want them in our religious houses. And I say that as an atheist. But I understand that in the same way, I don't want the church telling the government to tell me what to do. I don't think that the government should tell the church what they have to do either. You know, freedom of and from religion. It's a great thing. As long as whatever you're doing in your religion does not impact or hurt other people, then you should be left alone. Do your thing. Enjoy your thing. Whatever that thing is, however fucking silly it is. You want to pretend that fucking crackers are some fucking 2,000-year-old dead dude's flesh? Hey, man. Have fun in your cannibalistic ritual. You want to drink his blood? I mean, it's just wine, but sure. We'll pretend this is blood. Again, have fun in your cannibalistic ritual. It doesn't hurt anybody. It's just ridiculous. People like Mike Johnson, however, hurt people. They use their religion as a weapon. His wife is involved in all sort of conversion therapy fucking gimmicks and shit. He has had his hands in those sorts of organizations as well, or praised them. Um, so, he's actually using his religion as a justification for injuring other people, for disenfranchising other people. MTG, again, Paul Gosart. These people would use their religious beliefs to disenfranchise or hurt other people. And that shouldn't be allowed in our government. So the whole point of talking about these Christian nationalists like Mike Johnson and MTG and Paul Gosart and the like is understanding that it's more than just Trump. Defeating Trump is only one step in a very long and complex road of defeating fascism and Christo-fascism, Christian nationalism, and white supremacy. Because those are the real issues that are plaguing our government. It's not just one dude, and hey, if we get rid of that dude, we're all going to be okay and everything's going to be fine. It's not that. That's not the case. There is an infestation within the body politic of our nation, and it has to be rooted out and combated, and it has to be told in the most certain circumstances, you are not welcome here. And so, again, as I stated in the last episode, the whole point of me doing this is to try and scream sanity. Because in the next year, when next November rolls around, it's not just going to be, oh, okay, well, I get to vote on Trump or Biden. There's going to be tons of other people that you need to vote on. And you need to understand that every last one of them, all of them, are important. All of them are just as important as fucking Trump versus Biden. So, when you go in that voting booth, you need to go in there with the understanding that every check mark matters. And you don't need to be phoning it in. You need to be understanding that a real change needs to happen. Otherwise, the infestation within our body politic is going to tear the nation apart. Because again, it's not just one dude. Thanks for joining me for another episode of The Devils in God's Country. We'll pop another one of these up next week. I think we're gonna post on Saturdays for the time being, and then we'll see how it goes from there. As far as when we get into doing live videos, when those will air, or when we'll actually be going live with those broadcasts. But stay tuned. Share these videos with your friends, family. Get us some more subscribers up here. I need 50 in order to start doing the live podcasts again. So that's what we're shooting for. Our goal right now, 50 subscribers, and then we'll get to start doing the live shows. Y'all have a wonderful day, and see me again next week.
Oh, it's the wind that moves like a river. Down low where the waters don't whisper, but roar out like a demon, calling forth the send me